Hello and welcome back to a new video. So right now in our legendary, amazing fruit server, if we try to make a request to a page that doesn't exist, like this for example, we basically get the default response from Ktor, which is an empty page or just an empty body, no body in the response, and we get the 404 stats code. Same thing happens when if you try, for example, in your web browser, you are going to get the default page from your browser like that, and it's going to say that the error code is 404. So basically, there's no HTML page that the server returns, so it displays this. So to handle this, we are going to use something called stats pages library or plugin, if you want to call it that way. That's what it calls its plugin here. So this is the official page from the Ktor documentation. We're just going to use this to get the dependency here. Feel free to check this out. I'm also going to leave links in the description for this. So I need to add this dependency. So I'm going to copy this and go to build.gradle and paste this here. Since I'm using version catalog, the TOML file style of this, I'm just going to copy this part here. Let's comment this for now. And I'm going to go to the TOML file that I have here. I'm going to duplicate this, Control D, and the module is I'm going to paste this without the colon and rename this to Ktor server stats pages. And the version of this is going to be Ktor version, just like all the other plugins. And let's click sync, but we're not done yet because we need to go to build a Gradle. I'm going to uncomment this. And instead of these quotes, I'm going to say libs to ktor server.stats pages. There we go. And now we can sync. So after we sync successfully, we need to initialize the stats pages plugin and start using it. So let's go to the application KT file here, where we initialize all of our other plugins. Let's initialize this one by saying install stats pages. Now I have this fancy little live templates. I think it's an IntelliJ Ultimate only, I don't know. But what you need to do is just say install, and then between the parentheses just you should have stats pages. And as you can see, there's a little template here which I'm going to comment for now. Let's go get back to that later. But let's start by providing a default response for when someone tries to access a page that doesn't exist, for 404 errors, basically. So we can say status, and here we pass the HTTP status code that we want to handle. So let's say HTTP status code not found here, and here we have access to the call, the HTTP status code and the call. So we can say call and code here. Code is basically the HTTP status code itself, and the call is the call that the client made, so we can respond to the client. So here we can say call dot respond. For the HTTP status code, we can just pass code. We still want to return 404. And for the actual response, we can use a simple response for this. And success is false. And you can say, sorry, the page you're looking for is not found. Okay, so restart the server and let's test this out. Okay, go back to Postman. Let's try to load this wrong page here. As you can see, we get our simple response right here. Okay, cool. Now what if, instead of responding with the JSON like this, we want to respond with a page? Now we can do that using the status file function here. So we pass all of the HTTP stats codes that we want to handle. So we can say, for example, HTTP stats code not found, and we can say HTTP stats code internal server error, for example. and you can add as many codes as you want, and then you say file pattern equals. So where is this function going to look for files, basically? So our HTML file is going to be in our resources inside our static folder here, just next to this index.html file. So let's say static / error, and then let's add this .html. Now this hashtag or square is going to be replaced by this function. So when we have not found status code, is going to be replaced by 404, and Ktor is going to look for a file called error404.html, which we are going to create right now. So, oops. So let's, in the static folder, let's create a new HTML file, and let's call this HTML file error404, like that. And this is not an HTML tutorial, so I'm just going to paste something that I already have here, totally not made with AI, and try to let's reload our server. Actually, this and this are going to be conflicting, I guess. I don't know which one will work, but let's just comment this for now, just to be safe, because we want to respond with a file. And restart again. Now if we go to Postman and try to make a request here, we get an HTML, and I think we can preview it from here. As you can see, this is our fancy error page for the fruit server. Okay, and you get the same results if you try to access from the browser. So like this, basically you get the default HTML page that you have here. Okay, another thing that you can handle with the stats pages plugin is exceptions. So you can use this function exception inside your stats page plugin configuration. You can specify what kind of exceptions you want to cache, or for example, it's just throwable here, so it's just basically it's going to handle any kind of throwable, including all exceptions. And here you have access to the call and the cause, which is an exception, basically, or a throwable in this case, because this is a throwable. So you can basically make a generic response like this one, which is basically he's responding with this text and this status code, or you can just make some condition. So for example, say if you want to check if the throwable is I don't know, illegal argument exception, for example, you do this, and if it's another kind of exception, you do something else. But you can also make individual exception blocks like this one for each and every exception that you have. So let's try and see this in action. See this working in action. So let's create another endpoint. Okay, so I'm going to the very bottom of the fruit routes file. Let's just create another endpoint. Let's call it exception, and basically let's throw an exception here. Let's throw an exception. This is a test, and let's restart. So let's try and call the exception endpoint, and as you can see, we got this response 500 Java lang. This is a test, which is the same that we have in our statspace configuration here. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the configuration of the stats pages, but let's do one more thing that I think can be useful. Right now we've seen how we can respond with a stats file, for example here in this case, but what if we want to respond differently depending on what content basically the client is looking for. So if the client wants an HTML page, we return an HTML page, and if the client wants a JSON, we return a JSON. So we can do that, of course. So let's uncomment this block. This is stats block that we have earlier, and we are going to add some conditions here. So when the client makes a request, he sends some headers by default, and one of the headers is the accept header, which tells us what content the client accepts or expects us to return. So let's try to read that. Oops. So let's say accept header is call request headers, and let's say HTTP headers dot accept. And this can be null, and the header is basically a string, so I'm just gonna use an empty string if it's null. Now we need to check accept headers if it contains content type text HTML, and we just have to convert that to a string. So here, if we have text HTML in the accept headers, we return an HTML page. So how can we do that? First, we need to read our HTML file, our HTML page. So let's read that. Let's put that in a variable. Let's call it page equals call dot resolve resource, and we pass the path to our resource here. For our case, it's static error404.html. Then we can respond with the page, and yeah, so the page could be null if it's not found, for example, if the file is not found in the resources. So let's make a check. If page is not equal to null, we basically return this, and if it's equal to null, we just respond should be stats code internal server error, just like that. Now if the headers do not contain text HTML, we are going to respond with the same code, which is the not found, and we can also use a simple response and say, sorry, the page you're looking for is not found, just like that. So depending on the headers. Yeah, and let's actually, I duplicated this, so let's comment this out. Now let's restart our server and check this out. So here, let's try to make a request to a random endpoint, and it says, sorry, the page you're looking for is not found. However, if you go to headers here, and for Postman, it's going to have this accept by default, so you can uncheck this and add your own accept header and do text/HTML like this. Send the request, it's going to respond with an HTML page. However, if you try to load this in the browser, for example this, you're always going to have our HTML page like this. One last thing that I've almost forgot about is just organizing our code a little bit. So as you can see, configuration of other files, of other plugins, is like neatly organized in each individual function like this, and each function has its own file. And we're going to do something similar instead of having the whole plugin configuration thrown away like that. So I'm going to cut everything here, all of the install block, stats pages, just cut everything, and let's create a new file. So here in the root directory, for example, you can make your own package, called plugins or configurations. I think plugins is a better name, but I'm just going to put it here. So I'm going to call this stats pages, and I'm going to create a function that extends application configure stats pages, and just paste everything from that file here. Now, so far, we can go to application and just call that function. Configure stats pages. You can also, as your server grows, you might have a lot of configuration for stats pages here. This might be fine, but depending on how much configuration you have, you might want to organize this a little bit further. So let's just delete those comments. But for example, I sometimes like to have individual functions, for example, to handle 404 errors and other functions to handle this. So what I do is I create a separate function, for example, here. This one is going to be an extension of stats pages config. And I'm going to call this function configure not found, just like that. And just take this whole block here, paste it here. And then when you install the plugin, you just say configure not found, or better yet, let's name it handle not found, basically. So that was it for this video for stats pages. I hope that was useful. Don't forget to like and comment, and see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.